All right, this is Daf Yomi in motion number 790. Today we're going to learn Daf Ayin in Metzia, and we're going to be learning about Dinei Ribis, B'Yisoimim Ube Goyim, how they apply in with these types. We're going to start on the Samech Tes Amid base. We did the Mishnah. We can do it again. Mishnah in the middle of the Amud said, Shamin Para, the Chamor. The person had a somewhat almost a mature animal, and he wanted to do a business deal with somebody else that the other person would raise the animal for him. He's just providing the animal, and then he would fatten up the animal, and then they would sell it, and they would split the profit. So Shamin Para v'Chamor shehu oisei v'oichel mechza. So we said before, every time we do this type of a deal where they're splitting the hefsid and they're splitting the revach, so you always have to give the person who's doing the work some type of benefit payment. So it shouldn't, otherwise it would be ribis, because if they're splitting it, if each one is splitting it basically, so that means the one who's doing the work is they're splitting also the loss. So the half that he would get from that the worker would get, so he's fully responsible. If anything would happen to that, he would lose. That turns it into a milva. Because it's a milva, then why is he working? Why is he giving back money to the investor? That money, and why is he working for that investor? That's ribis. Why? Because he's like paying the investor for that, for having given him like the animal to make money with. And therefore, in order to take it out of ribis, you have to pay him for his tircha that he is putting into generating a profit for the investor. It's like this: when the animal is big enough to actually do work, then the worker can use the animal for benefit to do work, and then that'll be his pay, and it'll also be enough to cover all the food that the person who's doing all the work will have to provide. Will have to feed the animal to fatten him up. So the Mishnah says that in the case when it's a par or a chamor or called davar shehu oisei v'oichel lemechsa, then it'll be okay. He'll be like he's getting paid for the tircha that he's doing, providing a profit for the investor. And a makom shenoigu lichlaik es havlados miad cholkim. So we said yesterday, there's amounts of time that are needed when raising a vlad, a baby animal. How much time until the worker who's in the partnership can say, okay, that's enough, let's split. So in different places they have different times. And so in a place where they split immediately means right after it's reached that stage where they're required to reach that stage. But in a place where they go beyond that stage, and when raising vlados, they raise them all the way to adulthood. So then you have to raise it all the way to adulthood. So the makam shenoigu lichlaik es havlados miad cholkin, makam shenoigu ligdoil yagdilu. A place where they're noig to raise the animal till adulthood, till it can actually do work. So then they have to raise it. The person who's doing all the labor would have to raise it, keep it by him all the way until it gets to be a big animal that can do work. Because a lot of times it's to his advantage. He wants to get rid of it. He doesn't want to have all that work. He'd rather just split. So Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer Shaman Egel im imo v'siach im imo. So if babies are born to the animals that they're taking care of, so Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said, Zakula, you don't have to have any extra payment to the person who's doing all the work, as long as the baby has its mother, because then the food is supplied and by the mother's milk, and also you don't have to pick it up because you can get it around just by leading the mother. The baby will follow. And finally, we said that mafriz al sedehu ve'enu choshesh mishum ribis. This is a din that a person is renting out a field. The tenant, the tenant will ask for a loan after renting out the field, So the landlord can give him a loan, and and then raise the rent. And so it's not that wouldn't be a problem, because we're talking here that the loan that's being given is being used to improve the field, and he's like a sharecropper. So he wants this loan because if he can improve the field, he can make more money. He can make more. If he can provide the owner of the field with a certain X amount that he's supposed to yearly, and he can produce much more, he can end up with much more for that year. So it's to his advantage to improve, to fertilize, and to do everything else that's needed to make it a good land that can produce well. So he wants a loan, and we're talking that the loan, all the money is going to be put into the field. It's going to make it into a better field, and that's why once he does put it into a better field, he will owe the landlord. You have to pay back the loan, but at the same time, the field is now a better field, and the landlord can ask more money for it. So that's by asking more money, it's not considered ribis. It's considered that he's just asking more rent for a better field. Talk to Gemara Tana Rabbanan. We said at the end of the Mishnah, Mafriz al Sadehu, that he can charge more rent even after he gave a loan to the sharecropper. So ve'enu choshesh mishum ribis. There's no problem with ribis there, like we explained. It's not ribis. It's improving of the land, and it's not payment. It's not schar ma'ois. It's not payment for the loan that he gave, the money that he. The time that he's giving the loiva to use his money. Shum ribis. Ketzad, what are we talking about? Hasoicher es hasoda, person who rents out a field. He's a sharecropper. Hasoicher es hasoda mechavero. He's renting the field from somebody. Basar korim chitin l'shana. So he has the payment. He has to produce. He has to give back no matter what, a certain amount of produce to the owner. That's the rent. But at the same time, he's asking for a loan. Give me some money. Give me a loan, and I will invest it into improving the land, and I'll pay you back. And you'll have a better field, and you'll also have all your money back. And it'll be beneficial for me because I'll be able to produce more, and I will end up with more that year. And I'll give you a bit more rent. So it could say that it's ribis for the loan. Because he's giving him a loan, he's giving him more rent. But it's not that way. It's because he's renting a better field now. That's mutter. Aval ein mafrizin lo al chanus v'lo al sfina. But if a person's renting a boat or a store from a owner, and then he asks for a loan, and he wants to invest that loan he wants to stock the shelves of the store, or he wants to buy sails for the ship. No, not buy sails. He wants to buy goods to take and to trade them in a faraway land. So that's not, because the loan, that's a real loan. What he's buying with it he's not improving the object that he's renting in order that the owner of the object will be able to charge more money. Just because he bought goods to sell in a faraway place doesn't mean the owner now can charge more rent for the boat. It's not a better boat. And so then if he is charging more, it would be because schar mois, it would be because of ribis. So that would be asa. And that we're saying over here is what the problem is. Because by renting out a store, the only thing we're assuming here, what he's buying, what he's borrowing the money is to buy goods so he can sell them in the store or take them to trade them in other lands. Freeze lo al chanus, lo al sfina. Can't do that. You can't do that. Raise the price after giving him that loan. Omar Rab Nachman, Omar Rabba Bar Avua, Mafriz al chanus. Sometimes you can. Sometimes you can charge him more. When renting out a store and he wants a loan, you can give him the loan. Why? In the case where he's going to improve the store, he's going to make a big billboard, and people are going to come to the store. It'll attract more customers. So then it'll make the store more valuable. Anything that will make the store more valuable. For example, he's talking about painting like a mural on the store. The tzura bought tzura. He wants to make it nice. He wants to decorate it and make it look like a good on the outside or on the inside. So then he's making the store more valuable, and then he's charging more rent. And that's mutter. Sfina lasos law iskara. Also, sfina, if he wants to borrow money to make sales, the sales will stay with the ship, and the ship will become more valuable. You can rent it out to someone that has good sales, or other parts of the boat that need fixing up. So that's going to have the same. Then that would be mutter, because to charge more for that rent, because he's renting a better boat. So we said chanut litzur bought surasa to decorate it and to paint picture on it. The tzavu bought inshe. The reason why is because people will gather and come to that store. Havu agra tefei, and therefore agra tefei. The fact that he's charging more for the rent, it's not mois, it's not schar mois, payment for his money, that the loan that he gave him. Rather, it's just increased rental fee. It's agra tefei because it's a better store. Sfina lasos law iskara, and the renting the money to improve parts of the boat. Again, the extra money that he's charging out for the rent is because it's a better boat. Kevan dishpira iskara tefei agra tefei. Since it's a better boat, you can charge more. That's the clout. Zaktikmar sfinasa, in the case of a boat. Amarav agra vipagra. What can you do with a boat? We just spoke about renting it out. But Rav holds, not only can you collect rental money for it, but anytime that something breaks, you can collect the damages from the person who rented. And we learned before that the whole purpose of renting is really covering, that was the difference between renting an object and renting money. Renting money, there's no loss to the object, and that's why you can't say that when money is paid for renting an object, money, you can't say, oh, I'm paying. For example, with an object, the money can be for the purpose because the person used the object and depleted it and wore it down and made it less valuable. And so you can say that's what the money is for. And that's not, that with money, you can't say this is rental money for the money. I'm just renting out my money just as I would rent out a hammer. Because with money, you can't say that he's paying you for the depletion of the coins, because it doesn't have to be these coins that he returns anyway. So the only thing you can say is it's payment for the usage of the money, and that's ribis. So here, and we said, so therefore, every time you rent out an object, renting is payment for the wearing down of the object plus a little profit. So it wouldn't make sense to collect rent and depreciation if something broke, because it's like collecting the same thing twice. So for example, here, he said with a boat, you can collect rent and depreciation, which is, it's basically saying that the renter is taking responsibility that if anything breaks, doesn't know if maybe nothing will break, but if anything breaks, he'll have to pay for it. That's full responsibility. One cloud that we're going to say now all through this daf is that whenever a person is fully responsible for something, so that's a milva, because that's the way a milva works. You have all of the money to do whatever you want with it, and you just have to pay, and therefore it doesn't matter what you do with it. You have to pay the malva back, the full amount. So too, if he has full responsibility for this boat, whatever happens to it, that means that it became a loan. And so why is he paying him rent then? So therefore, the rent is like ribis, because you're supposed to either pay rent and not pay depreciation, or pay the depreciation but not pay rent, but not both. So Omrule, Rav Kahana, Rav Asi, Rav, I agro lo pagro, I pagro lo agro. You can't charge both because they really both mean the same thing, as we learned before. Shosik Rav was silent. So they didn't know why he was silent, because really they felt that he could have had an answer, but the reason he was silent because he didn't know this certain brisa which would have supported him. Shosik Rav. Omar Rav Sheshes said the reason he's silent and didn't defend himself was probably because he didn't have this brisa. Because if he had this brisa, it would have helped him. Omar Rav Sheshes. And the answer that he's going to give is because the depreciation is not your normal depreciation. It's not like anything that goes down in value of this. If this boat goes down in value, you have to pay me the extra and plus the rent. That they're exactly the same thing. They're not exactly the same thing. One is normal wearing down of the boat, making it worth less, and we'll see. The other one is that if something mamash breaks, so then and that's different than just wearing it down, making it worth less. And that would have been an answer for Rab, but he didn't really answer that because he didn't have this. Maybe he didn't have this price. Omar Rav Sheshes, my time a shosik Rab. Why was Rab silent? Lo shemi le had the Tanya. He didn't hear. Maybe he didn't hear this brisa, or he didn't hear this brisa. Afal pi. The brisa says that afal pi she'amru ein mikablin son barzel. Even though you're not supposed to, see it in the next Mishnah, you're not supposed to receive a stone barzel deal from a Yisrael. Stone barzel is when a Yisrael will give you an animal, and like we had before, the person is supposed to raise the animal and make it worth more, and then they'll split the profit. So the cases that we mentioned up till now were not stone barzel because each person in the deal was taking half of the loss or half of the gain. But here he's not working that way. Stone barzel is that the person the makabel is taking half of the profit, true, but he's taking all of the loss. So that's stone barzel because for giving the animal, the investor, so he's doesn't have any risk. He only gets the profit with no risk. So that's why you're not supposed to do these types of deals with the Yisrael because it's mamash ribis. Because since the makabel has full responsibility for the animal, that makes it a loan which is given to him. So then why is he paying in the end, splitting the profits with the investor? Because that's ribis for the loan. So that's why you're not supposed to. But here the tshuva for Rab is from this brisa. He says, "Afal pi she'amru that ein mekablin tzon barzel." You're not supposed to take a deal of tzon barzel from Israel. About mekablin tzon barzel mina nachrim. But if a goy wanted to go into this type of deal with the yid, that the yid could go into it because there's no problem ribis to a goy or taking ribis from a goy. So the brisa continues, Aval, Amru, Hasham, Par Lechavero, whoever estimates in the beginning of a deal, the animal that's going to be used in the deal, Para, and he gives it over to the Chaber. So that we know how much it was worth in the beginning, and then we'll see what it was worth in the end, and we'll split the profit. So Hasham, Par Lechavero, Amru Lo tells him, Hari Paroscha, Asuya, Olai, Bishloshim Dina. So the person, the Makabel, after evaluating its worth, states that I understand that it's worth X amount, 30 dinar. And then he promises that he will give him a return. And I'll work the animal, whatever he's going to do with the animal, he's going to give him a sela every month to the investor. So that's mutter. So in this, they asked, why is it when it gives the reason why it's mutter? Lefi shelo asa domim, because they didn't fix a rate. Because when you fix a rate, then see the 3 lines up from the bottom in the Rashi. See if this answers it. I will pay you every month. A seller. I'll use the animal, and I'll the work. I'll use it, and it's like renting. I'll pay you for rent every month. Mutter. The ain is a ribis. This is not ribis. Rashi says to meforish lefi. Ribis kid meforish. It's not ribis. Like we'll explain lefi shelo osadomim. When you don't fix the rate, mechayim. It's not like if he will return the animal the end price. So that could be, if you fix it, that's where there's a problem, because if it'll go down when he's ready to return it to its owner is devalued, and you could buy the same animal for less money. So if he'll just give back the animal, he's giving back more value than he originally took. And so that's like ribis, because an animal which was worth 150, no, which was worth 100, 150, and it went down in value. By the time you want to give it back, and it was only worth 100, you could buy that same animal at that time for 100. And he gives back the animal, which is worth 150. So he's like giving ribis. That's when you fix it. And because they didn't fix it, they didn't have that problem. He was just, and it didn't, and therefore we wouldn't have the problem of ribis. That's why.
Sorry, so if you don't fix a rate,
right,
then it's not ribis.
Right. Because there's no chance. Like when you're dealing with if he's borrowing or renting a commodity like this, like an object. So if you fix exactly how much it is when you first take it, and if he'll give it back and the rate will change, and it'll be in the object depreciated, and you can buy the same object for less money, then it's a problem of ribis. So here we don't have that problem. He's answering because they didn't fix anything. So that's what it says. It's muter. Lefi shelo also doming. In fact, of course they did. They just said shloshim dinar. He told them when he received it, okay, I understand this animal is worth shloshim dinar. So what do you say? Why are you saying he didn't fix it? He did fix it. Omar Rav Sheshis, lo also domim mechayim. What he meant was he didn't fix it every time we while that the establishing of its value in it while it's alive, to use that rate while it's alive, go and return it, and it's still a live animal, that he'll be returning an animal which is worth more than he originally got, because you fixed it, and now the animal itself went down in value, it with less money. That's not what he meant. When he said shloshim dina, what they were doing, they were fixing it for after Misa. If it died, similar to the Sfina, that the depreciation that they were talking about over there was if something will break. And when something, that's different, that doesn't lead to ribis. That's not the normal depreciation of wear when a person uses an object either. It's when something broke. It has to be fixed. So that's like different. And therefore, that's muter. And this would have been an answer for what Rav, this is really what Rav meant in this case of the Sfina, why he says agra v'pagra. But Rav didn't defend himself with this price. Maybe he didn't have it. So that's what he meant. The fixing of this shloshim dinar was for that. Only if the animal will die. That's what the makabel meant. I know I have to return you an animal 30 dinar if it'll die, but not if he just returns it and it's still alive. That's not what he was estimating it for. So the bottom line on Samach Tes Hamid Beis. So Omar Rab Popo Hilchasa Sfina Agra Pagra. That is the halach, and it's really for the reason that we said above, because the pagra is not the same as the agra, not the same as the rental. It's depreciation for something that broke, repairing something that broke. And he is supporting his shita, his halacha, based on the hanhaga of some sailors, people that deal in boats, boat dealers. Noigu b'nei kufra, these are boat dealers. Agra b'shas meshicha, they would charge the rent when they're renting out boats. When the person is moishich the sfina, they charge the rent for the boat. The pagra b'shas shvira, and they take the payment for anything that breaks at the time when it breaks. That's what they did. So he saw that it can be done. So Frek the Gemara, why is he learning from boat dealers? We should be taking and learning from Dinei, Dinei Torah, from the Torah, not from the hanhagas of the boat dealers. So auto b'minhaga Talia Milsa. What is this? Is this din? This is Dinei Mominus. Why is he being toilet? Why is Rav Papa being toilet in the hanhaga of these boat dealers? And for the Gemara, what he wants to answer is that we learned it from the brisa that we mentioned before with Rav, and that's how they developed their hanhaga, and that's the way Rav Papa was saying that the halacha is. It says, Mishum Dimasnisa Tanya. We learned it in the brisa that we just had with Rav, with the Sfina. Tanya Minhag. Mishum Dimasnisa Tanya Minhaga. Because of our brisa that we just had, their Minhag. Omar Rab Anan, Omar Shmuel. He said the name of Shmuel, Ma'is Shel Yisaimim Muta Lehalvasan Beribis, that you can take the money in order to help the Yisomim, that their money, when they inherited money, Mamish lend it out for Ribis in order that they should have income to live off of. That's what Shmuel said. Well, Reb Anan said it in the name of Shmuel. We'll see that he really didn't say that. So, Omar Le Rab Nachman, Mishum de Yosmeininhu, Sfina Sfinhu Isura, because they're young Yisomim, you can feed them Isser. Sfina, it doesn't mean boat, it means Safana. Can feed them Isser. And he says, Yosme de Achle to love Didehu, Lezlu Basa Shavkayu. Any Yisomim that go and take things that aren't theirs, eat that's from that which is not theirs, should go in the way of the people that deserted them, meaning they should die. So Omarle, so he told them, so Omarle, Anna Uvda, he told me this, Omarle, Emali, tell me, Ezu Gufa the Uvda Hehihabi, because Rav Huna, Rav Nachman knew that Shmuel couldn't have said this. He could just take the money of Yisomim and lend it out for Ribis. So he wanted to know exactly what the case is where Rav Anan was Shmuel's Shita. So he asked him exactly what's the case. He told him that Amalei Ahu Duda Debei Mar Ukva. Mar Ukva was Nifter, and he had a hot water kettle, hot water urn. And that was valuable. It was made out of copper. So it was placed by the Apitropis, who was Mar Shmuel. And Mar Shmuel was keeping it for the Yisomim. They don't have anything to do with it. He would rent it out and then make money for the Yisomim. Mar Shmuel was being held by the Apitropis of Mar Shmuel. So Takil v'yoyev le, Takiv v'shakile. So every time someone would come to rent it out, he would weigh the whole urn on a scale to see how much nechoshit there was in it, how much copper there was, and then he would rent it out, take the rent for it. Right when they would bring it back, he would weigh it again and see if any copper had broken off, and it became that made it lighter, loss of value because copper loss. And then then after weighing it, and the person brings it back, Shakel Agra, he'd take the rent for it, but Shakel Pichta. He'd take the rent and he'd take the depreciation for the copper any copper that was missing. Took them both. Took money for both of those. That's over there, right? So and this is where the case, and Rav Anan was deriving from here. The Shmuel allows to use the mammon of Yisomim and take ribis for it, because he said, he shouldn't have been taking both the agra and the pichta. I agra lo pichta, the pichta lo agra. You take one or the other, like we learned. Rental payment is for the purpose because the object gets used up. So why is he charging for rental and also depreciation? That's the same thing.
If you're renting something and you want to include the price of erosion, as I put it here, how are you going to assess that accurately, because if you charge in your rental a price for erosion and it's less, or price of erosion and it's more, then you're in trouble. If it's less, then the person who's renting has rivers in a way, I suppose. And if it's more, you have rivers.
Well, there has to be some profit. The person is trying to. So if there's a little bit more than if he's paying a little bit more than the erosion, that's basically what he's paying for, using up of the object. If he's paying a little bit more than the exact amount that it went down in value, then it's not a problem because the one renting out has the right to take a profit. That's his livelihood.
Mm.
So, so the Gemara says.
Much more than he thought it was going to be. So he loses out there, I suppose.
So he says that that's what he was assuming that this case was, and that would have been ribis, because if you're taking both pichta and pachat and also rent, so then that means the fact that this, like we said before, if you're taking pachat depreciation, that means if anything happens to this object, the renter is fully responsible for it. And whenever a person has full responsibility for something, it becomes a loan by him. So then why is he paying also the rent? The rent is ribis. So that's where Anan saw that Shmuel was mamash charging ribis with the mammon of the Yisomim. So what does Rav Nachman said? That's not ribis at all. That's perfectly mutar to do what he did. Why? It's different. So Omalei, Kihai, to do such a thing like that, afilu bidaknone nami shari lema'avid. Even people with a beard, bidaknani, Yisomim that have a beard, meaning they're not young Yisomim that you have to take care of them. Even older people, meaning even anybody, regular people could do this type of a deal. Why? Taha mikable alayhu chuscha denachsha. Because what the money that he was receiving for the wage, for the rent, was for the type of depreciation, was a different type of depreciation than he was receiving for the loss of copper. Because just by heating up the urn, it's being soref, the copper, the choshet, it depreciates the copper right there just by heating it up. And so that's what he's paying. The agra is paying for that. And the fact that, and the other is the pagra is paying for the loss of copper. So there's no problem. There's no ribis over here. It's payment for a specific loss that is taken away from the object that the person just used. Says, because he explains the kama demakle nachsha bitzir damia. The more you srof, the more you burn copper, it goes down in value, and that's what he has to pay for. That's the agra. Amar Rabba Bar Shila, Amar Rav Chista, Amar La. Some said it in the name of somebody else. Amar Rav Yosef Bar Chama. So Amar Rav Sheshis. He said the name of Rav Sheshis. So Mois Shal Yisomim. Money of Yisomim, what there is. We said now that you can't take ribis for most of Yisomim, but here we're going to see what you can do. There is a type of ribis, like an avak ribis, that because they're Yisomim and they're not capable of dealing with their own issues, that you can. It's only anyway. So we allow it when it comes to Yisomim Ketanim. And that's the case called so Moshe Yisomim Muter Lahalvosan Krov L'Schar V'Rachok Lehefzit. Because the normal cases are, that is like a ribis. That's like ribis because the person taking the money is fully responsible. The person working for the Yisomim to make a profit with their money is fully responsible for the money or whatever the Yisomim gave them. So that's a milva. Why are they paying back the Yisomim? Because that's the Ribis. But since it's not 100% like normal Ribis, right? And we're dealing with the Yisomim Ketanim, so we allow it. Tanarabanan, how do we take care of Yisomim when they have money? What do we do with their money? How do we support them with what they inherited? Tanarabanan, Krov l'schar. No, it's talking about what we just mentioned before. Tanarabanan, Krov l'schar, v'rachok lehefsin. If person gets into a business deal which he doesn't have any chance of a loss, only a chance to gain. He says, I'm only going to go into provide the money for this deal if I only get the benefit and I don't get the loss. Wanting to, the other one doesn't have any capital to go into, so he might accept it, but that's not right. That person is called a rasha. Krov lehefsid v'rachok l'schar chosid. Person who goes into a business deal where he's more likely to have a hefsid than any profit, he's a chosid. Could be the reason he's going into it is because he wants to give tzedakah in a mechubadik way to this person. So he says, Bo, let's go into a deal together and I'll take any losses and we'll split the gains. So he's a chassid because he wants to give tzedakah to the other person maybe in this way. And if krov l'zeh, but if both of them have an equal standing with this deal, and they both can either splitting the profits and also splitting the losses. So, or similarly, rachok mizeh. So zuhi midas kol adam. That's the way most people are. Those are the different midot in business deals. Omale rabale Rabbi Yosef. Hani zuzi the yosmei here. This is the Indian of the Yisomim. How do we deal with the Yisomim's money in order to take care of it for them? Zuzi the yosmei. Hechi avdinin lo. What do we do with it? We have to buy for them what they need. What do we do with it? Omale mosvinan lahu beidina. We put it by the beis din, and we just take it out whenever we need it. That's the best. That's the safest place. Whenever we need some, we take it from beis din. So he said, Rav Yosef answered back to Rabbah. He said, if we do such a thing, eventually the money will be depleted and they won't have anything. Don't we have to do something to preserve their capital? So he told him, that's what Rav Yosef asked Rabbah. He said, Omalei, kal yakarna. To do such a thing, you're gonna deplete their karen. That's not a good way of taking care of the Yisomim. So Rabbah said, therefore, if you are disagreeing with me, so what do you suggest? So Omalei mar hechi ovid. What do you suggest? Omalei. So Rav Yosef told him, what we should do is like this. Bad kinan gavra de esle daba. Pricha. Go find a person who has a lump of gold. So because that'll mean if he has a lump of gold, probably he's rich, and therefore, if we're going to take the money of the Yisomim and put it by him, and anything happens to it, he'll be able to reimburse. And if Basin will tell this person that this person is going to take on all of the responsibility, all of the loss, and together they will split the profits. At least we'll know that this person can afford. We'll be able to reimburse them if there is loss. It won't get lost. It won't be put by a person who can't pay back if there is a loss. And also, it has to be a chunk of gold, because if it's something without a simon, we're afraid that if it had a simon, then maybe it's not really his. Maybe it was a pikadon. If it was a pikadon, someone can come by. Therefore, he might not really be rich, and he might not be able to pay back if something happens. And also, if it's a chunk of gold, it's not likely that somebody put it by him as a pikadon, because there's no simon on it. So nobody will feel that they can come and collect it. That's why nobody would put it by him, because they would be afraid they wouldn't be able to get it back because it doesn't have a simon. So do this, and then we'll give this person the money of the Yisomim, and then we'll take his chunk of gold as collateral. We'll hold it in beis din or wherever, and he will work using their money to make investments and try to earn a profit, and he will gain. He will gain using this money. because you don't usually invest with gold, a chunk of gold. So he's also benefiting. He has a chance of making a profit, and he'll also profit for them. And then we're going to say would normally be also, but by the Yisomim, it's mutter. So that's what Rav Yosef's idea was. So we told, that's what he said. So then Naktinin Da'ava Mine, take his chunk, that'll be the collateral. Yavinin Lahu, Nile, and give all of their monies to him. And it'll be a case of Krov L'schar V'rachok Lehefsid for the Yisomim. They won't have any of the loss downside, and they'll only have half of the profits. So Rabbi said that there's a problem with that. What happens if they can't find a person with a chunk of gold? So what? Then they're just going to lose their capital. So what do we do with the money of Yisomim? It makes sense if we could find such a person, but what if we don't? So then we're stuck, and they will lose their capital. So that's what he said. He explains first. So aval davar mesuyim, if it was something that has a simon, not like a chunk of gold, so low, that we wouldn't do this type of plan with that. Low, why deal with pikadon ninu? Maybe it was just a pikadon, the person's not really rich. It was just from somebody else. And if it was from somebody else, you can't use it as collateral either. Asimare yoiv simonin. Maybe he'll come and bring the simonim. V'shakal and just take it back. We won't even be able to collect their money from it. Omer Rav Ashi tinach. That would be fine. That would be a good plan if you could find a person like that. Or as soon as you can't find the person, then you'll be stuck and they would lose their money. Mishtokach gavra. The Aisle Dava Pricha, if you find a person like that, then we could do this Eitzah. Ilo Mishtokach Gavra the Aisle Dava Pricha Mikalu Zuze Diosme. So the problem with that is that the capital of the Yisomim, they would lose their money. Rav Ashi said. Eloma Rav Ashi therefore said, what should we do with the money of the Yisomim? Following. Basically, you should find a person who's very has good reputation based in, and give the money to him, and he will probably work honestly to try to earn a profit for them, because since he has a good reputation, he wouldn't want to lose his reputation. That's called an apitropis. So that's what he suggested. Omar Rav Ashi, Chazinin Gavra de Mishapu Nichse. Find a person who his properties are shaket, are quiet, meaning there's no liens on them. And he's trustworthy. Shoma Dina, and he listens to Beis Din. V'lo mikabel shamtain d'Rabbanan, he doesn't have any nidui, excommunications on him for having done something wrong. V'yavinin lahu nile, just give him all of the money of the Yisomim be'beidina, in front of Beis Din, so that everybody should know that there should be a koil, that the money was given over to this person, and also it should be known that the Beis Din trusted this person, which was a covet for him, and he'll probably want to uphold his reputation and do a good job, and that's the best thing to do with the Yisomim. Sokta like a Mishnah, Ein Mekablin Tzon Barzel in Israel. Like we explained, Tzon Barzel is an investment that only has, for one person, he has no chance of a loss. The other person who's going to do all the work takes all the loss, but he'll get half of the profits. We said if Israel is giving it over, it's also Amish Ribis. So Meshu Ribis, the Mishnah says, it's Ribis. But you can deal in Ribis, deals with Akum, with the Goyim. V'lavin mehen malvin oisan. Ribis. You can take, like we said, we can pay Goyim Ribis, and you can charge Goyim Ribis. V'chein v'ger toshav, also with a ger toshav, which is basically a goy living amongst the Yidden, who has promised, who has committed himself not to serve Avodah Zorah. Therefore, he's allowed to live amongst the Yidden. Therefore, you can deal in Ribis with him. Malva Yisrael Moisav Shel Akum. You can borrow money from an Akum. Vidas Akum. It'll all be according to their laws, not according to our laws. Because they allowed taking ribis, it's perfectly fine, and so it should all be done based on their rules. About lo midas Yisrael, but it shouldn't be going according to the like the I guess the auspices of the Beis Din. So the Gemara Lememra based on this Mishnah Lememra de Birishusa to Mekabel Kaima. So we just said that you're not supposed to take a deal tzon barzel from Israel. What does that mean? The problem is the person, the Makabel, is taking on all of the responsibility, all of the loss, and therefore it's definitely ribis, the splitting of the profit to the giving profit. So tourists for the person who receives it to work it, fatten it up, and they would make a profit, and all of the loss would be his. So there's a tzad to say that because they are going to split the profit, so there is still a hand of the goy. The goy still has a hand in that animal, even if the yid who took it is fully responsible for all the loss, which makes it into a milva for him. But he is working it to produce a profit. However, what if that so then maybe that gives it somewhat of a considered somewhat part of the goy. See the Rashi, the narrow lines of Rashi down about 7 lines. Lados p'turin mina b'chora. Lados are potter. So if that animal that was given over to the makabel, to the yid, had vlados, so those vlados are more of the yids. So it says the Rashi explains vlados p'turin mina b'chora. Lomi boya imais. So the mothers that were originally given over to the makabel from the goy. So for sure those won't have any shaykhs to the b'chayra, to p'turais mina b'chayra. I mean, let's say those mothers were also happened to be firstborn, and they were placed into the hand of the makabel. Anyway, those are for sure going to be putter from b'chayra, and they won't be given over to the kanim. She'im yolda b'chor, that if it was born a b'chor, einu kadosh, it is not even kadosh because it was born in the rishus of the goy. So it's true. Now it was given over to the yid, and the yid is fully responsible. So like in the rishus, the vlados that will be born from them in the rishus of the Israel, to half the Israel, even though the profit will be split. So Oisan Amagin Lechelek Israel. So we said they were going to split profit, even if it was only even if he is fully responsible for the loss, but it's still considered like half of that. Half is of the goys and half is of the yid, and so therefore, however, the vlados half, the half which is shaykh to the yid, we're saying is potter min abachayra. Even that is potter from the, and that half is fully just of the yid. The way it was born in the reshus of the yid. Kishis abru, when it will be born, while it's in its reshus, biyoldu. So Alma. So what do we see from that? That Alma b'reshusa Dinei saying kaimi. The fact that it's potter shows that it is considered in the reshus of the goy. Because if we did look at it in the reshus of the fully in the reshus of the makabel, like our Mishnah, like we were learning in our Mishnah, so then he should be chayab the Dinei of b'chayra to ibe achrayus to makabel, because if the makabel mamash was taking on all of the achrayus, kaime, amai patun, why should it be potter from b'chayra? He should have all the dinim. It should be in his reshus of the makabel, like we were learning in the Mishnah. And it's potter from b'chayra. So we see cases where you have an iska where it says tzom barzel, where one is going to be fully responsible for the hefsid, and yet it's not going to be chay b'chayra. That means that there's still some element of the goy. That's the shayla. Why we have that there's still a hand of the goy in this animal. Look, Asha, that was not going to be Dinei b'chor would not apply to this animal was in the case where the goy who was being the nice saying was retaining for himself all of the responsibility for the hefsed of the animal. And when he gave it over to the yid was only going to get half of the point. Saying the goy that was taking on the hefsed for himself. And that's why he really did have a strong hand in it, even when it was by the makabel, and then there wouldn't be any dinei b'chayra to this animal. So Amalei Rava, that would be the brisa. And our Mishnah is talking where the Nisan did not take that type of responsibility on himself, and that's why we said that it would be mamish Ribis. Amalei Rava, Kabil Ole. Mara onsa v'zoyla, tzon barzel karisloi. We just said that he's called tzon barzel. When the makabel takes all the responsibility, and the noisin doesn't take any of the law on barzel because the evaluated value is worth in the beginning of the deal, and they will get that back in the end. That's what's called tzon barzel. He won't lose. So how can you call it tzon barzel if we're talking about that the noisin is the one who was makabel all the loss on himself? That's one problem with learning that way, and then which leaves us in a problem between the Brisa and our Mishnah. Another problem is va'oid adatoni seifa about makabel tzon barzel mina akum. Right. The other problem is if you look in our Mishnah, the seifa said that whoever is makabel, that even though you can't makabel tzon barzel from a Yisrael, but you can makabel tzon barzel from an akum. That's fine with the goy. That's what our Mishnah said in the Sefer. And if we were setting up this type of a distinction that you can have the tzon barzel, the person who's accepting the responsibility can be either the makabel, then we wouldn't have had to learn the case in our Mishnah where you could deal in tzon barzel. We wouldn't have had to come on and learn it as dealing with a goy. Even with a Yisrael, you could have a deal of a tzon barzel, as long as the noisin is the one being makabel all the hefset, and the makabel is the one who is only taking half of the revach. So that's what the Gemara is asking. If we had this concept that the one who's taking on the responsibility could be either the noisin or the makabel, Also, meaning liflog within a Yisrael himself. Why do you have to come on in the sefer to a goy, to an akum? In the case where you can deal in some barzal. And then we learn, when do we say that you cannot deal in some barzal with a Yisrael? Except for possibility over to the Makabel. Mara is the one who accepts the full responsibility on himself. Then there shouldn't be any problem in some barzal. Again, because it doesn't seem like we have this type of an answer to explain the brisa where it is mashma that it's not fully in the reshus of the makabel because it didn't have dinei b'choira to it, and our Mishnah, which is mashma that it is fully in the reshus of the makabel because it was mamash ribis. So Ela Omar, how do we explain the brisa and the Mishnah? Ela Omar Rava. No, both the Mishnah and the Brisa is a case where the owner of the animal is not accepting responsibility and is giving all the responsibility to the makabel. Why, therefore, if it's considered 100% in the reshus of the makabel, then it should be. Gabi b'chayros, however, he's not. Why? Hanu tam tivlados Paturin min abachayra came in the e lo yoyev zuze asi nachre tofis lo lebehema, because if he'll take all the babies. So we see in Goyish court, he'll have full rights to do such a thing, because that was the deal. And so therefore we see that the hand of the goy is still in all of Vlados. And that's why in that particular case, there's no Dinei b'chayr. So the Gemara explains, lo moshkach, if he won't find the animal when he comes to collect, lo mashkach lo lebehema, he'll take the Vlados. Yad nachri be'emsen. So we see that even in the Vlados, the nachri has a hand in them. And we know that once the Nachri has a hand in the Vlados, that there's not going to be any din b'chayra. The Gemara says, "V'chol yad Nachri be'emsa poter min b'chayra." That's why. So we see that there's not a problem between the Brisa and our Mishnah. They're both that we're both dealing with a case where the makabel was the one who accepted responsibility. The only difference is that when you're dealing with a goy, there won't be in Vlados any b'chayra, because makabel doesn't come up with the money that he's supposed to. The goy will come and grab everything away that he can. So that shows that he still has a hand in even all of Vlados. That's why there won't be any din b'chayra. Because in that extent, they're not considered 100% in the reshus of the yid who is dealing metapa with them. So we have a pasuk that says, pasuk in Mishlei, it says that marbe hayno b'neshech, that a person who makes a big profit by taking ribis is sarvis, and also sarvis, meaning that by giving loans and not paying them back. Dalim yikbitsenu, that in order to all that person's money will be gathered in order to benefit poor people. So Rashi says, the Gemara says, so marbe hanu b'neshech v'tarbis l'choinen dalim yikbitsenu. All that money will be used to help the poor. So my l'choinen dalim, what does it mean it'll help the poor? Dalim over here means goyim. Dalim and mitzvahs, the ones that don't have mitzvahs, so it's going to help the goyim, because Omar Rav goyim. Shvor Malka, talking about a Persian king. And what he used to do is he used to stop, take the money away from the Yidden and give it to the poor people, poor Persians. So they're just saying that a person who will make money in a usher way, so it could be Min Shemayim, Hashem will make that, like the money will be taken away and given that person who Hashem would have made, that this king would take the money away from him and give it to his people.
Would it be ethical to give rivers to the tzedakah?
He wasn't allowed to take the rivers at all. So by doing that, even if he's going to give it to tzedakah, so it says it's always good to give tzedakah, but it wasn't good what he did before the tzedakah of taking rivers.
You shouldn't benefit from the rivers.
Oh, the person who receives it.
A Jew shouldn't benefit.
Oh, after a person earned rivers, you need to give it to another Jew to benefit from?
You can say that, yeah.
No, you shouldn't benefit from the rivers, even right.
So,
right.
Then what happens then if you give? So the rivers goes to Gentiles, and they know it comes from you. So they think well of you. So you're benefiting from it.
They don't even know if they're going to know that it's coming from him. The king takes it away from whoever wants to take it, puts it in a big pot, and gives it to whoever wants to give it.
But if they did know, then you're benefiting from
it. From rivers. Could be taking more than just the rivers. Amarab, Kagon, Shavur Malka, that's what he used to do, take money away. So Amarab, Nachman, Omar Li Huna. We said over it, Lo Nitzricha. What are we learning from this? The fact that it says, this pasuk that says, person who has ribis, it'll be taken away and given to the poor. What are we learning from that? That was a case of Shvur Malka. That means that it was talking about people living amongst the Persians. Stama, it was ribis that he took also from Goyim. So he wants to learn from, you're not supposed to even take ribis from the Goyim. You see here, any ribis got taken away from him. So even ribis that he got from the Goyim. So if so, we have a kasha. The Gemara asks, Eisavei, Rabbaler of Nachman, why do you say that it's a problem to take ribis from the Goyim? The pasuk says, "Nachri sashich, la'achicha lo sashich." You should give your ribis. You should pay ribis to the goyim, sashich, or for your brothers you should not pay ribis. Lama'an yivarecha Hashem elokecha b'chol mishlach yodech, and that Hashem should bless you in everything that you do. Ala oretz asher ato bo shoma l'rishta, on the land that you're going to inherit. So he's asking, it says in that pasuk, the Nachri Soshich. What does it mean, Soshich? Pasuk Pshat, it means you should pay ribis to him. So my Soshich, love Soshich, doesn't mean you should take ribis from the goy, meaning when you give a loan to a goy, you should not give him free loans, you should take ribis from him. One says, no, it means Pashat the way it's written. It means Soshich, you should pay ribis. When you take a loan from a goy, you should pay him ribis. That's what you can learn. Like the Gemara, although sagi de lo hachi, what you can't take a loan from a goy without paying him ribis. You have to pay him ribis. Because if we would learn that you just, what's wrong with learning that you are just allowed to pay ribis to a goy? Why do we have to learn that you have to pay ribis to a goy? We could learn that you are just allowed to take ribis from a goy, and we could be learning something from it. We could be learning that here you're allowed, but from a Yisrael, you're not allowed. Yeah, we would be learning something from it. You don't have to say that when it says Soshich, Nochri, the Nochri Soshich, that it means you have to pay ribis to him. So, and therefore we would learn Lafuki Achicha, And we would learn something out from it that when it comes to your brother, you aren't even allowed. So why do you have to learn it this way that you have to pay ribis to goy? Lafuki achicha dulo, that you can't. So we answered that you couldn't. We didn't really. We had problems learning that you can take ribis, give ribis to the goy, because what would you learn from that? That lafuki, the opposite would be that you can't. That you that you can't take ribis from your fellow man. That we learned specifically already. So then why would we have another pasuk to teach you that you can take ribis from a goy if you want? What the whole purpose of that would be to teach us, like I know you can take ribis from a goy, so why would you be telling me you can take ribis from a goy? Therefore, it's only there to tell us the opposite, that you can't take ribis from a yid. Why would we have to have that set up? That we wouldn't need to have a pasuk that teaches us you shouldn't take ribis from a goy, because that from your yid, because that's specific. We have a specific pasuk that says him. So when we had the other pasuk that says give ribis to a nachri, so we're stuck. Must be that it's not that. It must be that telling us that you should pay ribis to a nachri every time he gives you a loan. You can't be using it for the other purpose of teaching us lafuki, what you can do with them, and teach us that with a yid you can't, even optionally, you can't take ribis or pay ribis. When it says, achicha behedi kasibeh. If you wanted to learn that you can't take ribis, that we know for sure anyway. So we're stuck. We're pasuk by the nachri must be telling us you have to pay the nachri ribis every time he gives a loan. Where do we see it specifically? It says ulachicha lo sashich. It says to your brother you should not pay ribis. The more answers, true. Why do we have the pasuk that says l'nachri sashich? It means true. It doesn't mean that you have to pay ribis to a goy when he gives you a loan. It means that you are allowed to pay ribis to a goy in that way. What about the fact that we had a specific pasuk for that? No, that we work out. But essay v'lo saseh. The reason we have it said twice. The one time when it says lo achicha lo sashich, that's the lav. Do not pay to your fellow man ribis. And when we have it l'nachri sashich, that you should pay ribis to a loan that you get from a goy, it doesn't mean you should, that you always have to. It means that you can take a loan from a goy if it entails paying him ribis. There's no problem. True. And we don't need to know that. That's pashut. But the opposite is that you can not take ribis from a yid. And the reason we need that is because that's an essay. Because when it says the positive, you should pay ribis to a goy, that's an essay. And anything you learn, as Rashi says, if you're learning not to take ribis that you're not allowed to take ribis from a yid, and you're learning it from this essay, so it's got the din of an essay. So therefore, it's to place on the person who would pay ribis to a yid, two lavin, a lav, two isurim, a lav and an essay. That's why we wrote it that way. And we'll stop here.